Captain Sarah Chun stood on the bridge of the UES Horizon, watching the massive alien dreadnought approach through the viewport. The Zeltheran ship was 3 times the size of their exploration vessel, its dark metal hull bristling with weapons that could vaporize them in seconds. But they weren't here to fight. At least not yet. Incoming transmission. "Captain," Communications Officer Park announced, his voice tense. "Put it through." The main screen flickered, revealing the imposing figure of Commander Vexstar, the Zeltheran military leader who controlled this sector. His reptilian features were scarred from countless battles, and his 4 red eyes glowed with barely contained hostility. The universal translator made his harsh, clicking speech understandable. "Human vessel," Vexstar's voice rumbled through the bridge. "You trespass in Zeltheran space. Normally, we would destroy your pathetic ship and scatter your atoms across the void. But today, I am feeling ... generous." Sarah kept her expression neutral. 3 months ago, humanity had made first contact with the Zeltheran Empire. The meeting hadn't gone well. The Zeltherans saw humans as weak, primitive beings unworthy of respect. They'd already destroyed 2 human colonies on the Outer Rim, claiming the territories as their own. "We're listening." "Commander?" Sarah replied. Vexstar's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. "I have a proposition for you, little human. A test of your species' worth. My personal war dragon, Kithara, is dying. She has served me faithfully in 100 battles, but a recent encounter with rebel forces left her gravely wounded and infected with a rare disease." The screen shifted to show a massive creature in what appeared to be a medical bay. Sarah gasped despite herself. The dragon was magnificent even in its current state, easily 30 feet long, with scales that shifted between deep blue and silver. Its breathing was labored, and strange dark veins were visible beneath its hide. "Beautiful, isn't she?" Vexstar continued. "Our best healers have declared her beyond saving. The Zeltheran way would be to give her an honorable death. But I'm curious about your species' supposed compassion. Take her. If you can heal Kithara, perhaps humans have some small value after all. If she dies under your care," his eyes gleamed dangerously, "well, at least we will know how truly worthless you are." Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the ship's chief medical officer, stepped forward. "Captain, may I speak with the commander?" Sarah nodded, and Elena addressed the screen directly. "What exactly is wrong with her? What symptoms has she shown?" Vexstar's laugh was like breaking glass. "You think your primitive medicine can succeed where Zeltheran healing arts have failed? The creature suffers from morphic plague, a disease that attacks the very genetic structure of its victims. It rewrites their DNA, causing organ failure and eventual death. Our sensors show the infection has spread to 70% of her cellular structure. She has perhaps 2 of your days before complete system collapse." Elena's eyes widened. Genetic plague was something humanity had encountered before, but never in an alien species. The complexity would be astronomical. "Additionally," Vexstar continued, "she bears physical wounds from plasma cannon fire. 3rd-degree burns across her left flank, internal bleeding, and a severe nerve cluster in her wing membrane. Oh, and she hasn't eaten in 6 days because the pain makes swallowing impossible." The bridge fell silent. Even with human medical technology, this seemed impossible. But Sarah could see something in Elena's eyes, not fear, but the kind of focused determination she'd seen when the doctor worked on supposedly hopeless cases. "We'll take her," Sarah said firmly. Several of her crew members looked at her in shock. Lieutenant Commander Brooks, her second in office, stepped closer. "Captain, with all due respect, this could be a trap. Or worse, a suicide mission." "If we fail, when we succeed," Sarah corrected, "it might open diplomatic channels with the Zeltherans. And if we don't try, that dragon dies for certain." Vexstar's mandibles clicked again. "Fascinating. You accept, knowing you will likely fail? Perhaps humans are even more foolish than we believed." His expression turned serious. "Very well. I will have Kithara transported to your vessel. But know this, human, When she dies, I will personally ensure your species learns the price of arrogance." The transmission cut off, leaving the bridge in heavy silence. "Elena," Sarah turned to her medical officer. "Tell me honestly, can we save her?" Dr. Rodriguez was already pulling up medical files on her tablet. "I won't lie, Captain. This is beyond anything we've attempted. Morphic plague in an unknown alien physiology? The genetic mapping alone could take weeks, and we have 2 days. But you have an idea." Elena's mouth quirked upward slightly. "I have several ideas. Some of them are even legal in most solar systems." She paused, looking at the data streaming in from the Zeltheran ship. "The thing is, humans have something the Zeltherans don't." "Which is?" "We're stubborn. And we don't give up on patients, even when logic says we should." Elena's eyes hardened with determination. "I'm going to save that dragon, Captain. Not because I want to impress the Zeltherans, but because that's what we do. We heal, we protect. We save lives, no matter whose life it is." An hour later, the cargo bay filled with armed Zeltheran soldiers escorting a massive containment unit. Through the transparent aluminum walls, Sarah could see Cathara clearly for the first time. The dragon was even more magnificent than the transmission had shown, but also more desperately ill. Her breathing was shallow and rapid, and those dark veins had spread visibly even in the short time since the video call. Commander Vextar himself had come aboard, his personal guard flanking him. He stood nearly 8 feet tall, and his presence filled the cargo bay with barely contained menace. "She is yours now, humans," he announced. "My medical staff has prepared detailed scans and treatment records. Not that they will help you where we have failed." Dr. Rodriguez was already scanning the dragon with her medical tricorder, her face intense with concentration. "We'll need to move her to Medical Bay 2 immediately." "Captain, I'll need at least 4 hours before we can begin any procedures." "You have whatever you need," Sarah replied as the Zeltheran containment unit was carefully moved through the ship's corridors. Vextar walked alongside Sarah. "Tell me, human, why do you attempt this impossible task? Your species gains nothing from success and loses much from failure." Sarah looked at the commander directly. "Because she's alive and she's suffering. That's reason enough." Vextar stopped walking, his 4 eyes studying Sarah intently. "You speak of compassion as if it were strength. In Zeltheran philosophy, compassion is weakness. The strong survive by eliminating the weak." "Then maybe," Sarah said quietly, "that's why your healers couldn't save her." For a moment, something flickered across Vextar's scarred features. Surprise? Consideration? Then his expression hardened again. "We shall see, Captain Chun. We shall see if your human softness can accomplish what Zeltheran power could not." In Medical Bay 2, Dr. Rodriguez and her team worked frantically to set up life support systems adapted for the dragon's unique physiology. The bio-readings were worse than the Zeltheran scans had indicated. Kithara's cellular degradation was accelerating. "Elena," Sarah said privately, "what are her actual chances?" The doctor didn't look up from her work. "Honestly? If we were treating a human patient with similar symptoms, I'd say maybe 5%. But this is an alien species with completely unknown biology, infected with a disease we've never encountered." She paused. 0%, Captain. Logically, mathematically, scientifically, 0% chance of survival. And illogically? Elena finally looked up, her eyes bright with determination. "Illogically, we're humans. We've built a civilization on doing the impossible. We've cured diseases that killed millions, we've brought people back from clinical death. We've performed medical miracles that would seem like magic to our ancestors." She turned back to Cathara, whose massive form barely fit in their largest medical bay. "Besides, I've been studying the scans. There's something the Zeltherans missed." "What?" "They've been treating this like a disease, but the genetic damage pattern is too organized, too systematic. This isn't natural mutation, it's artificial. Someone or something engineered this plague as a weapon, which means it has specific attack vectors, specific vulnerabilities." Elena's smile was fierce. "And if it was designed, it can be redesigned." As the medical team continued their preparations, word spread throughout the ship. Every crew member knew what was at stake. This wasn't just about saving one dragon, it was about proving that humanity deserved a place among the stars. In his guest quarters, Commander Vexstar reviewed the human medical data with growing puzzlement. Their equipment was primitive by Zelthoran standards, their techniques unrefined. Yet they approached the problem with a methodology he'd never seen before. Where Zelthoran medicine focused on strength and dominance over disease, the humans seemed to be looking for harmony, for ways to work with the body's natural healing processes. It was illogical. It was inefficient. It was fascinating. Late that night, as Kithara's condition continued to deteriorate, Dr. Rodriguez made a discovery that changed everything. Deep in the dragon's genetic code, hidden beneath layers of viral corruption, she found something impossible. Human DNA. Not much, just trace amounts integrated into specific neural pathways. But dawn came early aboard the UES Horizon, though in the darkness of space, it was only marked by the ship's artificial day-night cycle. Dr. Elena Rodriguez hadn't slept. She stood in Medical Bay 2, studying Kithra's sleeping form while data streams flowed across multiple screens around her. The dragon was beautiful even in sickness. Her scales, which had seemed dull yesterday, now showed faint traces of their natural luminescence. But the dark veins of infection had spread further, creating web-like patterns across her hide that pulsed with each labored heartbeat. "Any change?" Captain Sheen's voice came from behind her. Elena didn't turn around. Her vitals stabilized around 0300 hours, but the genetic degradation is still progressing. "We bought her some time with the standard antiviral cocktail, but that's just treating symptoms." She finally looked at Sarah. "I've been thinking about that human DNA all night, and it's too precise to be an accident. Someone specifically modified her neural pathways to be compatible with human neurochemistry." "But why, and who could have done it?" Before Sarah could answer, Lieutenant Park's voice echoed through the ship's communications. "Captain, to the bridge, please. We have an incoming transmission." When they arrived, the main screen showed Commander Vexstar, but his expression was different from yesterday. Less hostile, more curious. "Humans," he began without preamble, "our sensors indicate Kithra's condition has improved slightly. This is unexpected. We've only just begun treatment," Sarah replied. "Dr. Rodriguez believes she can be saved, but it will take time." Vexstar's mandibles clicked slowly. "Time is a luxury you may not have. 2 hours ago, we detected ships entering this system. The rebel coalition has found us." His 4 eyes narrowed. "They were the ones who wounded Kithara in the first place. If they discover she survived their biological weapon, they will stop at nothing to ensure she dies." Elena stepped forward. "Biological weapon? You mean the plague wasn't natural?" "The morphic plague was created by rebel scientists as the ultimate weapon against the Empire," Vexstar explained. "It targets our most valuable allies, the dragons. In 3 centuries of war, they have never found a cure." He paused, studying Elena intently. "Yet your primitive sensors detected something our advanced equipment missed." "How?" "Because we look at problems differently," Elena said. "Your medicine focuses on overpowering disease. Ours focuses on understanding. Finding harmony with natural healing processes." Vexstar made a sound that might have been laughter. "Harmony. With rebels approaching, you speak of harmony." The transmission cut briefly, then returned. "You have 6 hours before they arrive in weapons range. If Kithara is to survive, you must heal her before then." The screen went dark, leaving the bridge in tense silence. 6 hours, Sarah said grimly. "Elena, what do you need?" Dr. Rodriguez was already moving toward the door. "I need to stop playing it safe and start playing it smart." "Captain, I'm going to attempt something that violates about 12 different medical protocols." "How badly?" "If this were a human patient, I'd lose my license and probably go to prison." Elena's smile was fierce. "Good thing we're in uncharted space with an alien patient and no medical review board." Back in Medical Bay 2, Elena assembled her team. Chief Nurse Williams, biochemist Dr. Patel, and genetic engineer Dr. Kim all looked exhausted but determined. "Here's what we're going to do," Elena began, pulling up a three-dimensional model of Kithra's genetic structure. "The plague attacks by rewriting DNA sequences, but it follows predictable patterns. It's like a virus that overwrites computer code, destructive but systematic." Dr. Kim studied the data. "You want to reverse engineer the infection, Elena? That's impossible. The computational requirements alone would be impossible for any single human brain," Elena interrupted. "But not for a hybrid consciousness." The room fell silent. "The human DNA in Kithra's neural pathways isn't just compatible with our neurochemistry, it's designed to interface with it. Someone prepared her for neural linking with a human consciousness." Elena's eyes blazed with excitement and terror. "I'm going to directly connect my brain to hers through the ship's bio-neural interface. Together we can map and repair her genetic code from the inside." Dr. Williams paled. "Elena, neural linking with an alien consciousness could kill you. Or worse, it could leave you permanently altered. And if I don't try, she dies for certain and probably takes human-Zelthran relations with her." Elena was already moving toward the bio-neural interface chair. "Besides, I've studied her brain patterns all night. There's something familiar about them, something that feels right." As Elena prepared for the procedure, word spread throughout the ship. In the cargo bay, Zelthran soldiers watched human crew members work with an intensity they'd never shown before. These weren't warriors preparing for battle, they were healers preparing for a miracle, Commander. Vextar arrived just as Elena was being connected to the bio-neural interface. "What is she doing?" he demanded. "Something that's never been attempted," Sarah replied. "Direct neural linkage with an alien consciousness for the purpose of genetic reconstruction." Vextar stared at the scene before him. Dr. Rodriguez lay in the interface chair, neural conductors attached to her temples while monitors showed her brain activity syncing with patterns from Kithra's sleeping mind. "This is madness. The neural shock alone could kill her." "Maybe," Sarah said. "But humans have a saying, fortune favors the bold. And we have a saying," Vextar replied grimly. "The bold die young." The linkage activated, and Elena's consciousness plunged into an alien mindscape. At first, there was only pain, vast, overwhelming agony that threatened to tear her mind apart. But slowly, she began to understand the patterns, to see the structure beneath the chaos. Kithra's mind was ancient and vast, filled with memories. Of battles fought across 100 worlds, of soaring through alien skies, of loyalty and love and loss. And underneath it all, like a gentle current in a raging ocean, Elena found the human elements. They were subtle, woven so carefully into Kithra's consciousness that they felt native, natural. But Elena recognized them immediately: compassion, healing instinct, the drive to protect rather than destroy. "You were prepared for this," Elena whispered into the shared mental space. "Someone knew, someone planned for this moment." Images flashed through their connected consciousness, memories that couldn't belong to Kithara, but somehow did. A human scientist working in secret on a distant world. Genetic samples being carefully integrated into dragon physiology. A message encoded in DNA itself, waiting for the right consciousness to read it. The plague, Elena realized. It wasn't just designed to kill dragons. It was designed to be cured by human consciousness interfacing with modified dragon neural pathways. This whole situation, it's not a test, it's a key. Working together, their minds synchronized in ways that should have been impossible. Elena and Kithara began to unravel the genetic weapon. What would have taken years of research and computation was accomplished in moments of pure mental clarity. They saw the plague's attack patterns, understood its weaknesses, and began the delicate work of reconstruction. Outside the mental link, Dr. Kim watched in amazement as cellular regeneration began at the genetic level. Elena's vitals are stable, but her brain activity is off the charts. She's processing information at rates that shouldn't be possible. And Kithara? Sarah asked. The infection is retreating. Whatever they're doing in there, it's working. Hours passed in the space of minutes within the shared consciousness. Elena and Kithara moved through genetic structures like architects rebuilding a damaged cathedral, restoring each sequence with precision and care. But they were also sharing something deeper: understanding, connection, hope. Why? Elena asked as they worked. Why were you prepared for human healing? The answer came not in words, but in images and emotions. A dying civilization, facing extinction from their own creations. A desperate plan to seed the galaxy with the genetic keys needed for salvation. Dragons, chosen as carriers because of their longevity and their role as bridges between species. And humans, selected not for their technology or their strength, but for their compassion. We were never meant to be enemies, Elena understood. We were meant to be partners. As the genetic reconstruction neared completion, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. The rebel fleet had arrived. "Captain," Lieutenant Park's voice crackled. Through the communications, 5 ships just dropped out of hyperspace. They're powering weapons and demanding we surrender the Dragon. In the medical bay, Elena's eyes snapped open, the neural link complete. Kithara stirred, her breathing deeper and stronger than it had been in days. "It's done," Elena gasped, exhaustion hitting her like a physical blow. "The plague is neutralized and her injuries are healing." "But Captain," she struggled to sit up, "there's something else. The human DNA in her system, it's not the only modification. She's been enhanced, prepared for something bigger than just healing." Kithara's eyes opened fully for the first time since arriving on the ship. They were ancient, intelligent, and filled with gratitude. When she spoke, her voice resonated through the ship's hull itself, a telepathic communication that everyone could hear. "Elena Rodriguez, Sarah Chun, brave humans of the vessel Horizon." Her mental voice was warm, musical, and infinitely grateful. "You have." The rebel fleet moved through space like a pack of predators, their dark ships cutting through the void toward the UES Horizon. Captain Zeke Moore of the Coalition flagship watched the smaller human vessel on his tactical display and felt nothing but contempt. 5 combat cruisers against 1 exploration ship, his weapons officer reported. "They cannot possibly escape." "Good," Zikmur clicked his mandibles in satisfaction. "Today we finish what our plague started. The Dragon dies, and with her, any hope of the Empire developing immunity to our weapons." But as the rebel ships closed to weapons range, something impossible happened. The human ship disappeared, not cloaked, not jumped to hyperspace. It simply ceased to exist on their sensors while remaining perfectly visible to the naked eye. Where tactical displays had shown a single vessel, there was now a void in space-time itself. "Report?" Zikmur snarled. "Unknown, Commander. The ship is still there, but our targeting systems cannot lock onto it. It's as if it exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously." Aboard the Horizon, Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched the tactical display in amazement. Kithara lay in the center of Medical Bay 2, her scales now blazing with light that seemed to bend reality around it. The Dragon's consciousness was expanded far beyond anything Elena had experienced during their neural link. "What's happening to her?" Captain Chun asked. "Evolution," Elena breathed. "The combination of human healing techniques and Kithara's enhanced neural pathways has triggered something unprecedented. She's not just healed, she's transcended normal dragon physiology." Kithara's mental voice filled the ship, but now it carried harmonics that touched dimensions beyond normal space. "Elena, Sarah, brave humans, do not fear. What you have awakened in me is the gift your species brings to the galaxy. The power to heal, to transform, to make something greater than the sum of its parts." Commander Vexstar stood frozen in the medical bay, his 4 eyes wide with shock. "This is impossible. Dragons cannot manipulate space-time. Our physiology doesn't allow for dimensional transcendence." "Dragon physiology doesn't." Kithara's voice rippled with gentle amusement. "But hybrid consciousness, enhanced by human compassion and strengthened by the genetic keys placed within me, can do far more than either species imagined." The ship shuddered as the first rebel weapons fired, but the energy beams passed through the horizon as if it were a ghost. The attacks struck empty space while the human vessel remained untouched. Impossible, Zeekmar roared on the rebel flagship. Nothing can phase shift at will. Deploy quantum mines. Commander, his science officer's voice was tight with fear. Our sensors are detecting massive energy fluctuations around the Dragon. She's not just alive, she's transforming the fundamental nature of space around that ship. Elena felt the change through her lingering neural connection with Kithara. The Dragon's consciousness was expanding, touching the quantum level of reality itself. But more than that, she was sharing her transformation, extending her evolved state to everything within her protective field. "Captain," Dr. Kim called out, his voice filled with wonder, "the ship's bio-neural network is interfacing with Kithara's enhanced consciousness. She's not just protecting us, she's evolving us too." Sarah could feel it, a lightness in her mind, an expansion of awareness that let her see patterns and possibilities she'd never noticed before. Around the bridge, her crew moved with newfound precision and understanding, as if they'd suddenly gained access to knowledge they didn't know they possessed. "The rebel fleet," Sarah said, her enhanced perception revealing tactical possibilities that hadn't existed moments before. "They're not just trying to kill Kithara. They're afraid of what she represents." Through their quantum-enhanced senses, the truth became clear. The modifications that had made Kithara compatible with human consciousness weren't just preparation for healing, they were the key to a new form of existence. A merger of species consciousness that could transcend the limitations of both. "Elena," Kithara's voice resonated through dimensions, "your species has a gift the galaxy has never seen. Not just compassion, but the ability to elevate others through that compassion. The scientists who prepared me understood this. They knew that humans wouldn't just heal dragons, they would help dragons become something greater." As the rebel fleet fired again and again, their weapons passing harmlessly through the phase-shifted horizon, Elena began to understand the scope of what had been planned. "The plague," she said suddenly, "it wasn't just a weapon against dragons. It was a test. Anyone who could cure it would have to possess the exact combination of compassion, ingenuity, and neural compatibility needed for this transformation." "A test," Commander Vextar repeated slowly, his scarred features showing an emotion Elena had never seen from a Zeltharan before. "Ah, the dying civilization that created this scenario. They weren't just hoping for healing. They were selecting for evolutionary partnership." Kithara's consciousness expanded further, and suddenly everyone on the ship could see what she saw. The quantum level of reality where thoughts became matter, where consciousness could reshape the fundamental forces of the universe. But more than that, they could see the rebels' true fear. The Coalition hadn't just been fighting the Empire. They'd been fighting evolution itself, trying to prevent the emergence of something that would make their weapons and their hatred obsolete. "They know," Sarah realized. "They've always known that dragons and other species could transcend warfare if they found the right catalyst. They've been using biological weapons to prevent anyone from discovering what human consciousness could unlock." Captain Zeekmar's voice crackled across communication channels, filled with desperate rage. "All ships, focus fire on the space around the human vessel. If we cannot target them directly, we will collapse the dimensional matrix they're hiding in." The rebel ships began firing in coordinated patterns, trying to destabilize local spacetime itself. It was a tactic of last resort, one that would likely destroy everything in the area, including themselves. "They'd rather die than see evolution succeed," Elena said grimly, but Kithara's response was not violence. Her consciousness expanded once more, and suddenly her voice reached across space to touch the minds of every being in the rebel fleet. "Children of the galaxy," her mental voice was infinitely gentle, carrying the warmth Elena had shared with her during the healing. "You fight against transcendence because you fear it will make you obsolete. But evolution does not discard, it elevates." One by one, the rebel ships stopped firing. On their bridges, crew members felt something they had never experienced before. The touch of a consciousness that offered growth rather than dominance, understanding rather than victory. "You created the plague because you feared what dragons could become," Kithara continued. But what if I showed you what you could become instead? Captain Zeekmore's second-in-command, a young Zelthran named Telvas, stepped forward on their bridge. Commander, the dragon is not threatening us. She's offering us something. Evolutionary partnership, Elena whispered, understanding flooding through her enhanced awareness. She's offering them the same transformation she received. Through Kithara's expanded consciousness, the truth of the ancient plan became clear to everyone present. The civilization that had prepared these genetic keys hadn't been trying to create superweapons. They had been trying to create bridges, ways for different species to share consciousness. To grow together instead of destroying each other, dragons had been chosen as carriers, because of their longevity and their natural role as intermediaries. But humans had been selected for something even more important, their ability to heal not just bodies, but souls. Their capacity to see potential in others and help that potential become reality. The plague was never meant to be permanent, Elena realized. It was meant to be cured by a species with enough compassion to try, enough ingenuity to succeed, and enough wisdom to share the results. Commander Vextar looked at the tactical display, where rebel ships were now drifting motionless, their crews experiencing the first touches of expanded consciousness. They are not fighting anymore. Because they understand now, Sarah said. This was never about victory or defeat. It was about evolution, the next step for all of us. Kithara's consciousness gently touched each ship in the rebel fleet, offering what she had received, not dominance, not conquest, but partnership. The choice to grow beyond the limitations that had defined their species for millennia, one by one. They accepted the transformation was gradual, beautiful, and utterly surreal. Ships that had come to deal death instead became vessels of discovery. Crew members who had lived for war suddenly saw possibilities for cooperation they had never imagined. The quantum field that surrounded them began to ripple with new forms of consciousness, hybrid awareness that combined the best traits of multiple species. Captain Zeekmore, his own consciousness touched by Kithara's gift, spoke with a voice filled with wonder rather than rage. Dragon, what have you shown us? The future, Kithara replied, her mental voice now harmonizing with dozens of others as the consciousness web expanded. The future that awaits any species wise enough to choose growth over destruction, unity over separation. Dr. Rodriguez, still connected to Kithara through their neural link, felt the full scope of the transforma,